Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burner stoners and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
I'm doing great.
You look great.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Hey, everybody out there in the world. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. And Mrs. Weedman and I are about to get normal. And we're going to smoke tonight. Mrs. Weedman, you got that nice doink right in front of you. We're about to smoke Double Tangie Banana. And this was given to me by our friend JKush, a second home grow strain. First one he gave us was apples and bananas. And this one is Double Tangie Banana. And this is a Double Tangie Banana's slightly sativa dominant hybrid, a 60-40 strain created by crossing the insanely delicious banana sherb and tangie strains. This tasty bud did take home a second place for best sativa concentrate in the 2015 North Cal Medical Cup, and good for a reason. With its powerful 14 to 18% THC level, delicious flavor, and overall relaxing and uplifting effects. How does that doesn't make any sense to me. Relaxing and uplifting. Is that like relaxing your body but uplifting your mind?
I don't know.
We'll find out,
Possibly.
right? Double Tangie Banana is one of the all-around amazing strains. Double Tangie Banana packs an addictive citrusy sweet flavor with tropical overtones and rich earth into each dense, long minty green frosty nugs. Yes, they were very minty green. As the nugs are broken apart and burned, you can just detect rich sense of tangy tropical fruits and sweet earth with a slightly spicy tinge to it at times. The Double Tangie Banana high comes soon after the first sweet exhale, sweeping you into your mind with a sense of euphoric energy that lifts your mood and leaves you feeling ready to get to work. As the cerebral sense grows, a relaxing feeling will start to wash over your body, lulling you in a state of calm without causing sedation or sleepiness. The plot thickens. These bright daytime effects make Double Tangie Banana perfect for treating conditions such as chronic fatigue, depression, headaches or migraines, and chronic pain. Effects: euphoria, happy, relaxing, uplifting, relieve symptoms of depression, fatigue, headaches, and stress. Flavors are citrus, fruity, tangy, sweet, and tropical. Aromas are citrus, earthy, and sweet.
I know we smelled that right away when you opened the package.
Yeah, oh yeah. So I appreciate you, JKush, giving us another try of your delicious home grow. I'm about to smoke this Spliff Society wrap with Double Banana Tangie. Mrs. Weedman?
It's pretty good.
While I smoke this, tell them what happened to you.
Well, yeah, I don't know that it happened to me, but I look like I may have joined the Real Housewives of New York because my whole face is bandaged. I had a round of Mohs surgery, if anyone's familiar with that. I had a funny little mark on my nose for a number of years now, and the doctor removed it in the office one time, didn't biopsy it because it didn't seem to be an issue. And then this most recent visit, I said, I don't know about this spot. It's still not right. And so he said, well, why don't we give it a biopsy? Sure enough, I have skin cancer. So I had to have this Mohs procedure. And it was okay. It's just, I don't know how I feel about it. I've had everything poked and prodded. I just prefer being sedated. It's a weird thing to be going through a surgical procedure that's pretty invasive and being completely alert. All they do is a local anesthetic, like when you have oral surgery. And although sometimes with oral surgery, they give you gas, so you're passed out. Anyway, it was an okay procedure. But now I'm walking around with this big taped up face and
Two black eyes.
One black eye, one a little dark.
Yeah.
So I look like I've been through the ringer, but I'll be all right.
Looks like you got
from what I understand, like once you have your skin cancer removed, they get clear margins. I don't think you like still have skin cancer. It's different than other cancers. So moving on and wearing my sunscreen a little more diligently than before. Well, I would say in my like more adult years, I've been pretty good about sunblock, at least on my face, and a low sunblock on my body. anyway, now I will be religious about it. So
If you have any kind of blemishes,
get your skin checked,
get
and
your
wear
skin.
your sunblock.
Yes, get your skin checked. I know some of you youngins out there love to go out in the sun with no sunblock and just test the waters and gets burned.
Oh, geez, Louise, we were kids of the
No sunblock
in the Midwest.
era.
You went out your first, usually your start of the sunbathing year was the worst because. Sorry, I'm dying over here. You all winter long, you're in Chicago, and you're not seeing the sun, and then. Back when we were young, it was like, the end of May, and you get these hot summer days, late spring, early summer days, but they were hot. We would climb onto our second-story house roof, and then we would lay on silver mats that were like the reflective padded mat that you put on your windshield, like if you don't have tinted windows or you don't want your dashboard ruined. Essentially, that was a sunbathing mat when I was a teenager. And so we'd go out my sister's bedroom door, and then we'd climb a ladder onto the roof of the back of our house, second story. So we're like 50 feet off the ground, sunbathing on silver mats with baby oil. We'd be lathered in baby oil, so that was safe too. Roll, slide right off, right? With our boom box and smokes. And we'd have sun in our hair. So baby oil, sun in, smoking, black tar roof, silver mat. And like a successful day in the sun you felt pretty toasted, Oh my God. Awful. So bad. I didn't do that through all of my teens. That was like probably when I was like 13, 14, and my older sisters that were in college were still home, and a little influence from the older girls. And then I got smarter in my 20s and started wearing sunblock. But wow, I'm pretty high.
It's pretty good stuff.
Sorry about the long-winded story.
It's
there.
all right. Everybody loves a little story.
Now and back then, starting in like 8th grade, I went to tanning beds. We would tan. Oh my God, I just loved being tan. But my sister worked at a tanning salon, so we could go and visit her at work, get some candy, and go tanning because there was a candy store next door. It was great.
Remember the tanning bed, like...
Oh, the smell of your skin when you come out?
Not even just that.
Like
I've only done
toasty.
it twice. So,
Really?
Yeah. But remember how many tanning bed salons there were?
Oh my God, the health club. It was part of your membership. You could go down in the locker room and climb in the sunbed.
Crazy.
With nobody telling you how long you could or couldn't stay in there. You could just
Tanning
keep
bed
hitting the button.
craze was nuts.
Fudge.
Jim.
No wonder why.
Jim.
I mean, I'm lucky.
Remember what is that show? Jim Tan Laundry. What was that show?
GTL.
Jim Tan Laundry.
Jersey
GTL.
Shore.
Jersey Shore. Jim Tan Laundry.
They fake bake all the time.
Fake bake, baby. I love that.
God, the fake bake.
Fake
Oh my
bake.
God.
That's so good.
So bad.
Oh,
So,
man.
consequences. Da-da-da. Now I
Yeah.
got the big fat, swollen, fat
The
face.
stitches.
I got
They
like
gave you-
8 stitches on my nose.
Yeah, and then
pretty
inside
serious.
too, right? Not even just the outside. You said they put some stitches
There's
on the
stitches
inside.
inside. There's stitches outside.
That's fucking crazy.
I just thought I wasn't going to have a nose, so I'm pretty happy about it. I'll take the scar. I'll come up with some silly story.
Yeah, you look
take
good.
the scar.
It looked good at a Halloween. You can like.
I think my eye's going to be crossed. It would be like they had to pull skin. I'm going to have a funny... Yeah, well. I have a nose.
You have a
know?
nose.
I thought I wasn't.
It
gonna have a
always
nose.
knows.
My nose knows.
There you go.
It's still sticking around.
The Bear.
The Bear.
Good
episode,
Really good
but I fell
episode.
asleep.
Yeah, you fell asleep, so we had to stop it. But I watched a little bit more until I realized you were asleep. But I'm not going to give any spoilers. But the restaurant is there. They were doing a friends and family night, and it was hectic, and they pulled it through. I'm not going to tell you who, but somebody got locked in the cooler, and a family member showed up to the front of the door but wouldn't go in. But it was very, very like sentimental, but not just even sentimental, like heartfelt. You kind of felt like you were there for that moment.
Yeah.
Especially that Jamie Lee Curtis looks like my mom.
Huh.
Like,
Well, now you just gave a spoiler.
it doesn't matter. But she looks like my mom. Crazy. So
Yeah.
like really
were having a
watching that.
moment?
Yeah.
Were you crying?
And I wasn't
Did you
crying.
cry like a baby?
I didn't cry like a baby.
My little great nephew, one of the first things he said about Mr. Weedman was, He cries like a baby.
Because I was fake crying because he hit me. And I started fake crying. And then he walked over to you guys and said, Mr. Weedman cries like a baby. I think he was like 3 when he said that too.
Oh my God.
We had a fun trip on Friday, though.
Yeah, we did.
So we had George, one of the owners and founders of Dynavap, on the show a couple episodes ago, and he invited us up to his facility. And we got to go and take a tour of the manufacturing plant and got to see and get a tour. It was very, very interesting, very, very techy, very, very over my head on a lot of stuff. But I really enjoyed his passion for creation, the passion for ideas, and proud to watch someone succeed and have 33 employees and have a facility that they work out of in the United States and make it everything here.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I thought it was awesome.
Very impressive.
Yes, very impressive facility.
My
you were
comment
geeking out.
Oh, I was.
At one point. You were geeking out.
I don't know a lot about a lot, but I know a little about a lot. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, a master of none. And I realized that, like, part of the reason I loved Mr. Rogers so much is he used to go to factories, and then he would he'd be like, "Come on, kids, let's go see that puppet," right? And then the puppet would take you to the factory. Oh my God, it was amazing. You got to see how crayons were made, and pencils were made, and pink pearl erasers. It was just amazing. I felt like a kid again. We got to go in this facility, and I don't know what most of the things did, but I know what most of the things did. Like, I wouldn't know how to operate them, but I understood their functions.
Yeah, he actually explained to you what they were, and you actually knew some of the stuff he was talking about. I had no clue what anything. I was amazed by the machines, but I didn't have any clue. I'm not a machine guy. Cool. I'm not a tool guy. So
they had everything for, like, from design, research and development, 3D, developing your prototypes and your models, and, making little tweaks, and you don't have to tool all of your machines and reprogram all your machines. You get, like, all of it dialed in through 3D printing. It was just super cool. Office, like, it was just a great facility, a great way to spend the day.
Yeah, it looked like a fun place to work.
Just to be, in somebody's, like, dream come true. Like, this guy has hustled, worked. I mean, if you listen to our episode with him, he's been trying to, invent things since he was a little boy, and found his niche, and just he's excelled with it, and he's done really well, and it was just really cool to see the reality of it. It was really neat.
Yeah, especially because I've had one for 4 years now, and to look where the one I had from 4 years ago to what they're doing now. The kind of design work they're doing now, unbelievable.
Different materials.
Yeah, and you could tell his mind is always spinning on what he can do to make it better, what he can do to make it sleeker, design-wise. It's just really impressive. So I want to say, George, thank you for the tour.
Yes,
thank you for the hospitality. Thank you for the cool seltzers you gave us, and we're letting Yuki come up and letting her have some fun walking around. She came on the whole tour too, and so thank you for letting us bring Yuki up. Thank you for letting me watch you ride around your little one-wheeler thing through the whole place while you were talking to us and keeping your balance. That was impressive.
Very impressive.
We were in this one room hanging out, and he had to go back to the warehouse to grab something, and he just got right back on that little one-wheeler thing he's got, and just and then get back in like 2 minutes. He's like, it saves time. I said, every second counts. He goes, you got that right. So it was great. It was fun, and I thank you, George. So appreciate you being on the show. Appreciate you for the gifts you gave us and your hospitality, and hopefully we get to come back up again and meet your staff. So it'd be great. So thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty baked. Yeah, pretty good stuff.
I feel pretty
done,
uppity.
JKush.
I feel like I could bounce around a little.
Yeah, but it is right on about the calmness.
Yeah.
I'm very calm right now. So, but good job, JKush. And like I've always said, if anybody ever wants to send us a couple of nugs to make a joint out of home grow, we will give you a shout out. We will smoke your strain on the show. We will try to find what information we can about it so we could talk about it, unless you send us it, and give you full props for any of you home growers or caregivers out there. And we appreciate any of the free weed.
That's really what it comes down to. We just want to smoke some good shit.
That's
so
it.
Send it our way. We'll tell everybody about
the way
how
this
great
keeps
it
on
is.
going. I'll probably never make it to an Illinois dispensary again to buy flower.
But really, we do enjoy it.
I do tremendously. I mean, we smoke a lot, and we smoke every night. On the weekends we smoke all day and night. But
and we share a lot.
Yeah.
Every time someone comes by,
my
we
gosh,
share.
yeah.
Come on, have a joint with us.
Yeah.
You want to take one for the road?
Yeah.
We'll pack you one.
Oh yeah. So we always give away some of the stuff that we have a lot of too. So that because we want other people to try the good stuff.
Yeah.
Especially that you home growers and
we talk
caregivers.
about it. We talk about where it's from.
Of course.
How we connected with the person.
And we want people to appreciate
what kind of grow they do.
What home grow is all about. Because I truly believe that everyone should be allowed to home grow. There's only, I believe, 11 states that home grow. I think what I last read. Don't quote me on that.
Mr. Weedman, I have an idea.
Oh, is it for the show or for after the show?
I got to tell you later.
Okay, do you need a pen and paper?
No, I think I got it.
You got it?
I got it. Just remind me that I had this moment.
I got you.
I'll remember.
I'll always remember. Okay. But yes, we do appreciate home grow. We appreciate caregiver. Even craft growers too. Small, really craft growers that take the time to do it. And so we'll support that and fight for that. That is my biggest fight: is free the plant so everyone can home grow and grow their own medicine, because it is something special when you get a good grow going. So, JKush, brother, appreciate you. Mrs. Weedman, you ready to get the show started?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Let's do this.
I forgot we didn't do it yet.
No.
I just feel like I'm having a conversation with you.
So this was an article I was reading, and it's called the 2023 Archetypes, High Frequency Consumers. And there's like a whole, we'll post this. There's like a wheel chart on here you can look at. What kind of are you a savvy connoisseur? Are you a contemporary lifestyler? Are you a legacy lifestylers? Is there medical lifestylers, modern medicinals, engaged explorers, social nibblers, holistic healers, and infrequent partakers? Man, it's just crazy, because before it was just two things: stoners and people that didn't smoke weed.
That was it. You're a stoner or you're not. That's all.
And now you put them fucking making this hard on us fucking people, burners, stoners, and potheads. Then they became 2, and then they became 3. Now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different categories you're putting people in.
Oh my
That's
Lord.
a lot for us. But I'm gonna read this
That's
anyway.
a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool though. So this is a report that this New Frontier Data did, and their upcoming report is Cannabis Consumers in America 2023. This part 1 of this, I think there's going to be 3 parts of this. This is part 1, an overview of consumers today. So the savvy consumers, 13% of consumers. That's savvy consumers is 13% of the cannabis consumers. These extremely consumers typically use cannabis multiple times per day for a wide variety of both medical and recreational reasons. They consume many different forms of cannabis, both smokable and non-smokable, though most live in states where the access to cannabis is legal. Savvy consumers source cannabis both from regulated channels, legal dispensaries, delivery services, and informal sources, friends, and traditional market. They are the highest spenders and most frequent purchasers, with 2/3 shopping for cannabis at least once a week. The archetype is the youngest on average and the most likely to source of cannabis for friends and family. Then there's the contemporary lifestylers, and that's 16% of the consumers out there. These frequent consumers primarily use cannabis recreationally to unwind. They generally prefer smokable cannabis products, but many also use non-smokable products on occasion. All contemporary lifestylers live in states where there's cannabis use is legal, either in adult use states or as registered patients in medical-only states, and they use primarily regulated sources of cannabis, typically a dispensary. Contemporary lifestyles acquire cannabis frequently and are moderate to high spenders. Then there's medical lifestylers, 12% of the consumers. Like the contemporary lifestyles, the medical lifestylers are frequent cannabis consumers who most often use smokable cannabis, but may occasionally use other edibles or other non-smokable forms. Unlike the contemporary lifestylers, the medical lifestylers use cannabis for medical reasons, such as managing pain or treating a medical condition. They generally source cannabis from legal dispensaries and delivery services. The medical lifestylers are the second highest spending archetype after Savvy connoisseurs.
Why are you saying that?
Because it makes you laugh. Legacy lifestylers, 13% of the consumers. Like the other lifestylers archetypes, the legacy lifestylers are frequent consumers who primarily smoke their cannabis. Yay!
Yay.
We're a legacy lifestyler. We're in the 13%. Your favorite number, by the way, Mrs. Weedman. Like the contemporary lifestylers, the legacy lifestyles are generally recreational consumers who use cannabis to unwind. But unlike their cousins in legal cannabis markets, legacy lifestyles are all traditional market consumers. They either live in states where cannabis remains completely illegal, or they live in medical-only states but are not registered patients and so do not have access to legal dispensaries. Accordingly, they source primarily from friends and traditional market dealers. Legacy lifestylers acquire cannabis about as often and spend only slightly less than their purchase their legal counterparts do. The contemporary lifestylers, albeit outside of the regulated context. While each archetype has remained similar in the characteristics outlined above since last year, the important development has been the change in the distribution of consumers across the 9 archetypes since last year, reflecting the evolution of consumer preferences as well as recent cannabis policy developments. There's another chart here. We'll post it. Fewer illicit consumers. Wow. One notable change since last year is the decrease in the size of the legacy lifestyle archetypes, who made up 16% of the consumers in 2022, down to 13% in 2023. The legacy lifestyles are archetypes most inhibited by their state's cannabis laws, with several states, including populous markets like New York and Jersey, expanding legal access to cannabis between 2022 and 2023 surveys. Millions more consumers find themselves in the new archetype, even if their use behaviors and motivations have not changed. Connoisseurs settling in. The Savvy connoisseurs is the other archetype that has shrunk its relative size since last year from 18% to 13% of all consumers. Part of this shrinking is the result of new, less frequent consumers becoming a larger part of consumer space. It could also reflect in return to the new normal after further easing of pandemic restrictions. Also, don't forget, because now cannabis is legal in a lot of states, a lot of people maybe just smoke it once a week. They smoke it socially at a party. They go to a dispensary maybe once a month, and they have the edibles for like a whole month. They eat maybe one a week or something like that. So that's where it kind of makes sense to me. The reduction in the number of Savvy connoisseurs from 2022 to 2023 may also be reflected of consumers in newly legal markets settling into their own consumption habits. Rather than they feel the need to try a variety of new products, they have figured out what they like and are creating a routine. Just like it's just like booze or beer. You find what you like. If you like Miller Lite, you're going to drink Miller Lite. If you like Lagunitas IPA, you're going to drink Lagunitas IPA. If you like a seltzer, you're going to drink Truly, or you're going to drink White Claw. You're going to drink something, and you find that, and that's what you stick with. That makes a lot of sense too. They also find less of a need to educate their friends about new products or procure products for the social criticals as cannabis becomes more mainstream and the general public becomes more knowledgeable. So, that was a good article. I mean, it explains a lot. I just don't like maybe the labeling so much for data or data, however the fuck you say it. It's fine. Companies use this to figure you out. Don't forget that. So figure out now you're being put in categories instead of just being a burner or a stoner or a pothead. You know, you're being put in like a consumer category now all you burner stoners and potheads and vipers out there. Just remember that. You're a consumer category.
You're many consumer categories.
Yeah. You ready to go, Mrs. Weedman?
I hope so. I'm going to try.
Harvard researcher breaks down the health benefits and some risk of cannabis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You just read the title, right?
I always do for you.
Well, in 2018, Massachusetts legalized the recreational sale and consumption of cannabis for adults. Since then, the cannabis industry has steadily grown statewide, with more than 250 dispensaries opening up and sales totaling more than $1.5 billion last year alone. Since 2012, 23 states and the District of Columbia have legalized recreational cannabis for adult use, and recent studies show that nearly 18% of Americans have used it in the last 4 years. Despite this recent embrace of cannabis, lingering questions still remain about the health risks and benefits associated with using it. To help us get a better understanding of what the latest research tells us, GBH, who is a public media partner behind PBS and NPR, their show All Things Considered, host Aaron Rath spoke to Dr. Peter Grinspoon, a cannabis specialist and instructor in medicine at Harvard Medical School. He's also the author of Seeing Through the Smoke, a cannabis specialist untangles the truth about marijuana. So, this is a conversation between Rath and Grinspoon. Rath: to start off, I'm curious about the current state of cannabis research. I know that for quite a long time it was difficult to actually do research, and I get the impression that in the last few years we've seen some worthwhile studies. Is that the case, and what have we learned? Grinspoon: well, absolutely. First of all, there's been cannabis research all along, but because of the war on drugs and the U.S. government's policy, virtually all of the research was oriented towards finding harms, not into finding benefits. To be funded over the last 50 years in cannabis research, you had to find a drop in IQ or drop in sperm count, a drop in motivation, or something harmful about cannabis. Finally, that's starting to lighten up a little bit, and we're able to research both the benefits as well as harms. However, I do want to mention that cannabis is still listed as Schedule 1 in the Controlled Substance Act, which by definition says no medical utility and high abuse liability, neither of which are true. Obviously, it has lots of medical utility, and there are several cannabis-derived FDA-approved drugs on the market, and it has a low to moderate abuse liability, not high. The fact that it's still a Schedule 1 substance makes it very difficult to do research. We are doing better and more balanced research now, but a lot of the research is happening, for better or worse, in other countries, such as Europe and Israel, where they don't have such strict and severe restrictions on cannabis research. Rath: well, what are some of the big discoveries that have been made recently? Grinspoon: well, it's a little hard to generalize. There were 1,400 studies that came out in the year 2022. People have a lot of confirmation bias with cannabis, but what I think is coming out, the things that I find really interesting, are that with legalization, teen use has not been rising, which is really good. I think we're finding increasingly that cannabis is helpful in older Americans, particularly to help them get off of many other drugs, the polypharmacy that they're afflicted with. We're continuing to learn that cannabis can be helpful to treat both insomnia, chronic pain, and because it could treat chronic pain, it can help mitigate many of the harms that we find with other pain medications, such as opiates or nonsteroidals, which cause a lot of heart attacks, a lot of ulcers, and a lot of kidney disease. So I think we're confirming a lot of what people have been saying anecdotally in terms of the benefits, now that we're more able to study the benefits of cannabis. Rath: I also know from our reporting about some experimental uses showing promise for relief for patients with dementia and other neurological problems. Grinspoon: well, when I look at medical cannabis as a clinician, I don't say, is cannabis safe? I do say, Is cannabis safer than whatever else I'd be using? And the medication we use as older Americans in general tend to be more dangerous. That's why cannabis, for many of them, is a palatable alternative. For dementia, there's no great treatment yet. But for many of the behavioral disturbances and problems, the aggression, the confusion, and the anxiety, we tend to load these patients up on heavy-duty neuroleptics, such as Haldol and Thorazine. And people are finding cannabis to be much more palatable as an option.
I like that.
It results almost universally, if you look at the studies, in an improved quality of life. That's huge. Wrath, getting to the point that you were just making about safe versus safer. We've also seen some recent studies that seem to correlate the availability of cannabis with lower rates of opioid overdoses. Grinspoon, absolutely. I've been treating people with opiate addiction for at least the last decade, and I find cannabis to be a very helpful tool in a number of ways in terms of helping people who are addicted to opiates. Cannabis helps with their pain, anxiety, and insomnia, and when they're withdrawing from opiates. Unfortunately, I can say I have personal experience. 15 years ago, when I was addicted to opiates, cannabis was much more effective than any of the other medications for opiate withdrawal symptoms, which are just miserable. You don't die from them, but they're utterly miserable. Now, the one area that I don't think we've arrived at yet is with methadone and buprenorphine, also known as Suboxone. We have very good data that there's a 50 to 80% reduction in overdose deaths, and we don't have that evidence yet for cannabis. So, I certainly use it to get people off opiates and for chronic pain, but when it comes to opiate addiction, I usually prescribe Suboxone and use cannabis as an adjunct just because there isn't the same level of data yet. Wrath. Well, let's go back to risks from cannabis. With recent research, do we have a better understanding of what risks there might be? Grinspoon. My dad was a legendary cannabis specialist at Harvard Medical School for half of a century, at least, Dr. Lester Grinspoon. Something very clear he used to say was that we spent so much money trying to vilify and prove harm with cannabis that we actually have proven, relatively speaking, that it's fairly safe. A lot of harm just hasn't panned out. For example, they tried so hard to show that cannabis causes lung cancer. While doctors don't recommend that you smoke anything, cannabis just hasn't been associated with lung cancer. That said, there are certain populations we don't recommend cannabis for because it's much more dangerous. We don't recommend that teenagers use it because it can harm their developing brains. We say to teenagers, just say, "I'll wait," instead of just say no. For pregnant women or breastfeeding women, there's no evidence that it's safe in these conditions. Again, this can come back to what is safer, because if someone has severe chronic pain, for example, when they're pregnant, none of their medications are particularly safe either. So, you try to figure out which is the least toxic alternative, which is the part of what's so stressful about being a doctor in general. Lastly, people with a history or family history of psychosis should certainly avoid cannabis because it can exacerbate or even worsen the psychosis. So, there are people who shouldn't use cannabis or should use it with extreme caution. Generally, if you're not in any of those risky health categories and you use it moderately and responsibly, it's a fairly safe medication. Wrath. Dr. Grinspoon, it's always fascinating talking with you. Thank you so much. And Grinspoon closes out by saying, "My pleasure." And thank you so much for these great questions. And I agree. That was a really good interview.
Really good. Mm-hmm. And I like how he said in that last part that if you treat it like a medicine and you use it for a medicine and you have certain ailments that medicine doesn't work with, then don't use that medicine.
Right.
Right?
That is now the term for that is called conscious consumption.
There you go.
Especially if you're using it medically, then you treat it like medicine. Like Mr. Weedman saying, you really got to dial it in and pay attention to the strain you're smoking, if the effects are helping the symptoms that you're trying to better. And if it's not, don't buy it again. Keep trying until you find types of strains that are good for you day and night. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. I'm high. Are you?
Yeah. There's some major changes to cannabis law that take effect around the U.S. Thanks. This is from Normal that put this article out, and it's spelled NORML. They should be in every state that you can find your local Normal office. So here's some of the effects that are changing. In Maryland, cannabis possession, personal cultivation, and retail sales are now legal. In Connecticut, adults may now cultivate marijuana at home for personal use. In Virginia and Nevada, multiple medical cannabis program improvements were implemented. In New Hampshire, out-of-state patients are now able to access state-licensed medical dispensaries. In California and Louisiana, efforts to expunge thousands of prior cannabis offenses are underway. In Maine, legalization limiting the ability for those on prohibition to be drug tested for cannabis has become law. In Ohio, cannabis legalization bill is currently awaiting a committee hearing and a subsequent vote. In North Carolina, medical cannabis legalization legislation is gaining momentum. In California, Connecticut, Maine, and New Jersey, legislators are working to establish social venues where legal cannabis may be consumed privately by patients and of aged adults. In California and Pennsylvania, bills expanding access to medical cannabis programs are awaiting legislative action. So there's some different changes going on. But something more fun now is scientists are studying how to roll and smoke the perfect joint. And I gave this to Mrs. Weedman because she loves smoking joints.
Well, scientists do a lot of important work, and sometimes they try to figure out how to roll your joints to get you the highest. This was the case from one team who presented their findings at the Canadian Chemistry Conference and Exhibition in Vancouver recently. While the concentration of tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, in the cannabis itself is important, the team found that the amount of THC which makes it into the smoker system is highly variable depending on how the joint is made. The team from Cannabis and Psilocybin Research Center, Delic Labs, put various spliffs to the test on a machine that could inhale and test the chemical composition of the resulting smoke, USA Today reports. Weed, any stoner will tell you, needs to be ground up before you make a joint in order to help it burn. The team tested what level of grinding was better, 1 millimeter particles or 5 millimeter particles, as well as determining which part of the spliff delivers the most THC. According to the team, joints made from weed that had been ground smaller burned faster and more efficiently, giving the smoking bot more THC than the 5 millimeter grind. However, the 5 millimeter grind lasted longer, despite not delivering as efficiently. This probably comes as no surprise to any experienced weed smokers. However, there was one interesting piece of information that came out of the test, which may upend the stoner etiquette of rollers' rights, or the idea that the one who rolled it gets to smoke first. According to the experiment, the best part of the spliff to get you high, where more THC and CBD is delivered, is at the end of the joint. And this was true regardless of the size of the particles. Interesting. However, if your goal is to get really high, other research does suggest the most efficient way to use your cannabis is by vaporizing it rather than burning it. We just have been learning so much about this lately.
Yeah.
In a simple study, volunteers were given weed containing 0, 10, or 25 milligrams of THC without being told what dose they had received and were asked to vape or smoke it. They were then asked to report how stoned they felt, while also performing a series of physical and cognitive tests and having their medical stats monitored. While the higher doses got everyone super high, regardless of whether they vaped or smoked, vaping was the clear winner. Vaporized cannabis produces significantly greater subjective drug effects, cognitive and psychomotor impairment, the team wrote in their study, and higher blood THC concentrations than the same doses of smoked cannabis. So get your vaporizers out and take a puff and see for yourself.
There you go. You have been rolling your own joints lately, Mrs. Weedman.
I'm trying. Sometimes
But you
I'm
have.
terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm
out of the 10
learning.
you've rolled in the last probably week, maybe week and a half, only 2 weren't smokable.
Yeah.
The rest were 8 were good. We smoked them.
I'm getting there.
That's a pretty good average there for somebody that's just starting out.
I'm not happy with them. They're not smooth yet.
They'll get there.
I'll get there.
Yeah. Illinois, one town might increase required distance between dispensaries and schools and churches. The town of Normal McLean County. The motion aims to increase the minimum distance between adult use cannabis shops and schools, daycares, and churches to 200 feet from the current 100 feet. So, crazy. New York, GOP assemblyman pushes to allow local governments to ban weed use in public. You know who I blame this on? That article you read about who does that morning show?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Her and her husband do the morning show every morning.
Kelly and Mark and Kelly.
We read that article about them complaining. Now all of a sudden there's a push to allow local governments to ban weed use in public.
In New York.
Probably the whole state, but I'm just blaming it on certain people right now.
Sounds good.
Florida bans medical marijuana in all state licensed rehabs and sober living houses. It's going to be hard because cannabis has been proven to help people who are opioid addicted, and they use cannabis to get off opioids. It's kind of hard when that needs to be helped. I don't know, Florida, man. You've been doing some weird shit lately, and I love Florida. I lived there for a long time. I love Florida. Some stuff I like, but there've been fucking some weird shit going on in that state lately. Alabama Medical Cannabis Conference rescheduled to October, and they're still trying to figure out all their licensing too. I don't know what the hell's going on, but crazy. Pennsylvania state senators introduced legalization to legalize cannabis. Colorado's cannabis industry calls this year's 420 sales the worst in recent years. April's cannabis sales, medical and retail combined, were close to 132 million, which counts as the lowest number in 5 years. You still did 132 million. What are you complaining about? I've said this before and I'll say it again. There's a lot more states that are around you now that have legalized cannabis, and those people don't need to come to your state anymore. So, of course, as more states surround Illinois, you're going to see less out-of-state buyers. You'll still see the tourist. I mean, what did you read the other day? Chicago gets 100 million tourists a year?
Yeah, like 110 million tourists a year.
A year.
I had no idea.
It's just say 3% of those tourists or 5% of those tourists smoke. You're going to get a lot from that. Maybe 10%. Lollapalooza's coming up here in Chicago. You're going to be busy at those dispensaries. So, but eventually the money runs dry. There's no more to gain from. You only have a certain amount of people that smoke weed, as we showed in those consumer categories. Okay? It's not like in the whole state of Colorado, which was probably 7, 8, maybe 6 million people. Maybe 1 million people smoke. And then you have your out-of-towners that come in and your tourism from skiing and mountains and hiking. So up into 12, 15%. I don't know. I'm just looking at the total number of how much they sold and basing it off of maybe what's the percentage of how many people truly smoke in that state, not counting tourism. So you can't say it's the worst. You made $132 million, your state, and the tax revenue is probably huge. So, man, oh man, stop being so fucking greedy. Missouri governor signs bills impacting cannabis banking, employee background checks. That's cool. Missouri's doing some cool shit. I like some of the shit they're doing there. Here's something funny. Would you ever use a cannabis amnesty box? Like the ones they have here in Chicago. Would you ever throw your weed in there?
No.
No, me neither. But travelers flying through Chicago have likely seen the green metal boxes.
I've seen it.
Yeah, it says I've seen them too. And Cannabis Amnesty Box. The boxes are located at the end of the Transportation Security Administration at the O'Hare Airport in Chicago, like after the scanners and X-rays. So they're in the airports in Chicago, right? Traveling by air with cannabis in airports, we all know it's federally legal to travel on planes with cannabis and stuff, so they do have them, but they're not. There are 12 amnesty boxes at O'Hare Airport and one at Midway. Only one at Midway. A bunch of stoners running through Midway like myself. So the CBD officers empty the boxes, an inventory is created, a report is made, and abandoned products are disposed of. They follow very similar protocols used when handling narcotics evidence. Only a small number of airports have installed these boxes, and now that it's been a few years of operations, this article is curious if they served much purpose. Many participants on long-winding Reddit threads have speculated and joked about where the weed actually goes.
Yeah.
And beyond that, everyone I've asked said they either consume or dump all cannabis products before heading to the airport. Damn. These reports leave me wondering who actually uses these amnesty boxes and how often. And so I don't. I probably never will. I mean, if they can't, the TSA can't arrest you. Remember that. Because if I had it in my bag and they just took it and said, you got to put this in the amnesty box, okay. And if they weren't following me, I'd walk over the amnesty box and fake like I put it in, just put it down my pants and keep on walking.
And they probably wouldn't really care.
No, I don't give fucks. That's what I would do.
You would.
I know.
I 100% know you would. 100%.
100%.
And then I'd get mad at you.
Yes, but then I'd be like, we still got weed. Go to the bathroom.
And then I'd be happy.
Yeah. Here's an edible for you.
Thanks.
Jersey's medical marijuana market shrinks as recreational sales grow. You see that a lot in a lot of states. So some people let their medical card lapse, and they just fucking, don't want to spend the money on that. So something sucks. New York was talking about legal weed sales at farmers markets. That's on hold now. Man, this governor, man, Kathy Hochul's, man, she just she says something and then goes back and does the opposite and changes it like a week later, 2 weeks later, or a month later. It's just weird. And then the first week of full week of Maryland cannabis sales was $21 million. Crazy. Good week. I posted this on my social media, though, but Matt Getz wants military to drop mandatory cannabis testing. My reasoning, and from what I read, is it's the lowest ever recruiting in 50 years in all the branches. And they all are falling short. And a lot has to do with their drug testing that the military does. So it's probably scaring a lot of people away. Also, because they aren't getting the kind of numbers that people to sign up. Matty gets like, this is a crisis. We're not getting people to come in. We need to do better. And so what if these folks smoked weed in college?
Right.
So I don't know. They're panicking. So, and they're trying to do whatever they can to get people to join the military again. I wouldn't. After I've seen the way they treat veterans in this country, it's fucking horrible. Why would you want to do that? You treat the people that go into the military to serve the country, and then when they get back, they get treated like shit. And you put them in these situations. So shame on you, government, for trying to lead people in because of this. Fucking terrible. Ohio activists turn in signatures to put cannabis legalization on November ballot. Go Ohio. Because they're drowning in so much excess of cannabis right now that they can't sell because the medical cards aren't growing. And there's 92 dispensaries now. So we'll see what happens. Oreo owner sends cease and desist order to cannabis growers because of the name of a lot of Oreos has been a popular cannabis strain since 2020 thanks to its heavy potency, blah, blah, blah. But Nabisco that makes Oreos doesn't like that the cookies named Oreos with a Z instead of Oreo with just an O at the end.
I get it.
So Mondelez's attorney is going after cannabis breeders that are using the name. It's spelled with a Z, not your name. So go fuck yourself. It is International or National Hemp Month.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And our founding fathers in this country, which I've read before, hemp was a major crop, and I'll let Mrs. Weedman take over on that, but it was a major crop in this country. And
you were mandated. You had to have a percentage of your, I think you had to have 1 to 5 acres or something of hemp if you were a farmer.
Yeah. And you got, you were giving, you had to sign contracts or sign stuff too to make sure you were doing it. There was a lot of stuff we've read. I'm pretty baked right now. I can't remember it all. But the 7 founding fathers farmed hemp. I mean, there's a big joke that you'd always see the George Washington dollar bill that says, "I grew hemp" coming out of his mouth. It's been known forever, So tell us about it, Ms. Weedman.
Yeah. America is built, pardon me with all of my scratchy throat. America is built on a foundation of hemp advocacy. On July 4th, 1776, 247 years ago, the Second Continental Congress unanimously adopted the Declaration of Independence, announcing the colony's separation from Great Britain. Many of them not only grew hemp, but insisted how important the plant was to the foundation of American agriculture. Sorting through rumors about the Founding Fathers and hemp is another story with invented quotes and misinformation. The Declaration's blanket assertion, all men are created equal, should be taken with a grain of salt, given that many Founding Fathers owned slaves, and Thomas Jefferson and Henry Clay's slaves also grew hemp. It would take a lot longer for actual equal rights to materialize. In colonial times, hemp was an acceptable form of tax payment for over 150 years. The Hemp Tax Act, right? The Hemp Tax Bill, I think it was called. The Hemp something. Anyway, here are the top founding fathers who farmed, milled, processed, or advocated for hemp. George Washington. MountVernon.org is the website for George Washington's estate, and they admit that he grew hemp extensively and compared it to tobacco. Throughout his lifetime, George Washington cultivated hemp at Mount Vernon for industrial uses, Mount Vernon writes. The fibers from hemp held excellent properties for making rope and sail canvas. In addition, hemp fibers could be spun into thread for clothing, or, as indicated in Mount Vernon records, used in repairing the large seine nets Washington used in his fishing operation along the Potomac. Nearly 500,000 Americans die annually from tobacco-related illness, but to think that if it could be avoided if Washington had his way is powerful. At one point in the 1760s, Washington considered whether hemp would be a more lucrative cash crop than tobacco.
It would have.
Yeah, but he determined wheat was a better alternative. Today, scholars can sift through George Washington's detailed grow log on the website. Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson's hemp crops were massive, and he enlisted slaves to grow it. Enslaved laborers cultivated hemp both at Monticello and Poplar Forest, Jefferson's plantation in Bedford County, Virginia. Jefferson's estate, Monticello.org, writes, Jefferson once used 48 pounds of hemp to make clothing for child slaves. Jefferson's massive plantation could yield up to 150 pounds in one day. A hand can tend 3 acres of hemp a year, Jefferson's journal reads. Tolerable ground yields 500 pounds to the acre. You may generally count on 100 pounds for every foot of hemp that is over 4 feet high. A hand will break 60 or 70 pounds a day, even up to 150 pounds. You can read page 95 of his hemp journal in his own handwriting on their website. American-made threshing machines invented around the time of the Declaration were used for hemp and were a symbol of power over Great Britain's dominance. Then there was Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine's book, Common Sense, spurred the revolution, and it had the largest sale and circulation of any book published in American history when it was published in 1775. It convinced colonists that they were being exploited by the crown. In almost every article of defense we abound, the pamphlet reads, hemp flourishes, even to rankness, so that we need not want cordage. The later line stirred up speculations, but rankness apparently means fruitfulness, ensuring that colonists would not run out of the hemp rope. Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin owned a hemp paper mill and published content about hemp's medical properties. Franklin published the Pennsylvania Gazette, and in excerpted Ephraim Chambers' Universal Dictionary, writing that hemp is of great use in the arts and manufactories. Like Washington, Franklin also had a change of heart on the issue of slavery and was the first president of an abolitionist society. However, little changed during his lifetime on the embedded institution of slavery. And Alexander Hamilton, America's first Secretary of the Treasury, oversaw hemp imports in the states and once imposed a 5% tax on hemp imports in 1790. All other goods imported from foreign countries shall be liable to a duty of 5% ad valorem, except certain articles deemed of importance to manufacturers, among which hemp is not. It is therefore certain that a duty of 5% accrues on the importation of hemp in the United States from any foreign country, Hamilton wrote on May 21st of 1790. Henry Clay, he ran unsuccessfully for presidency 3 times. He was also very enthusiastic about hemp and forced his slaves to farm it. Hemp was Henry Clay's most lucrative cash crop at Ashland. HenryClay.org writes, men enslaved by Clay grew thousands of pounds of hemp and manufactured it into rope and bagging for the cotton industry. Clay was interested in experimentation and pursued many new innovations in equipment and hemp varieties. And we have James Madison, America's 4th president and father of the Constitution, was also reportedly a hemp farmer and claimed that hemp gave him the insight to create a new democratic nation. Launched in 2015 by faculty from the Departments of Biology and Engineering, James Madison University's Industrial Hemp Research Program coordinates university expertise toward laboratory research.
Happy National International Hemp Month, everybody.
Hemp, hemp, hemp.
Hemp, hemp, hemp can save the world. Say it all the time.
It's amazing.
International news, more than 1,000 arrested in a sweep of UK weed growers. A recent campaign to eradicate cannabis cultivation in UK netted more than 180,000 plants and resulted in the arrest of more than 1,000 people.
Jeez.
That is crazy. Raids targeted criminal gangs. And then the UK police chief calls for drug decriminalization. Also in that. 180,000 plants and 1,000 people busted in a sweep. That's a so that there just proves right there that the traditional market in the UK is huge. Okay? And they're doing nothing to legalize it at all and to help free the plant and stop the stigma, because I just think they're just foolish over there. Mm-hmm. It's just all about control. So 180,000 plants. I'm going to butcher the name and I apologize. Kazaka Stoner Comedy, a guy's story offers whiff of Central Asian cannabis culture. So it's a show. It's a Central Asian cannabis that Kakaza Stoner Comedy, a guy's story, takes place. The movie centers on 3 young Kakaza men from Almaty named Tima, Khair, and Russ. While the 3 start off as stolen cell phone smugglers, they soon stumble upon a strain of high-quality Kyrgyz weed. Keen to make a quick buck, Timothy needs money to get a USA visa, while Care must pay for his impending wedding. And the three hatch a plan to traffic this strain across the border back to Almaty and sell it to a violent mafia boss. Of course, the events did not go according to plan, resulting in a fresh and entertaining addition to not just the world's pantheon of stoner comedies, but also cinema at large. I think it's fun. I think it's great. Good. Show the world cannabis movies. It's amazing. Germany launches application process for distribution of locally produced cannabis. They're getting ready. They're ready to go. Come on, Germany. Let's go. Jackie Kennedy. Jackie,
Class act.
I mean, like, kept the nation together at one point. I mean, we weren't born yet, but this is what I've heard from my parents. Like, she held the country together after JFK was assassinated. But, you know, class act, just like she was admired around the world. And it was a sad time in the country. And, you know, but the crazy thing about it is she had a little bit of a little grow going and didn't know about it in her Cape Cod home, claims this biographer. And the picture of this on this article of her is classic, just classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was just always dressed so well. Well, everybody knows that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope.
Yeah.
I mean,
all of her clothing is in a mute. Didn't we see the exhibit with all of her dresses?
I think you might have.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Anyway, Jackie Kennedy, former First Lady, upper class socialite, a woman of distinction, and an avid weed grower? What? One of these accolades is not like the other, but all of them are kind of true, according to a new biography. White House by the Sea, A Century of the Kennedys at Hyannisport, by Kate Story, recounts tales of the Kennedy family on Cape Cod across generations. One excerpt shared in Town and Country magazine details the claim that an illegal weed garden almost rocked Jackie's reputation. The tale took place after Aristotle Onassis's 1975 death. Jackie's second husband, whom she married 5 years after the assassination of JFK. According to Story, Jackie's days at Hyannisport were spent sunbathing, reading manuscripts as part of her editor role at Viking, and hosting friends and lovers while the Kennedy cousins flowed between her home and Ethel Kennedy's. Story writes that Jackie struck up a friendship with Bunny Mellon, the horticulturist who designed the White House Rose Garden. It was Bunny who told Jackie what to plant where in the cutting garden behind her Hyannisport home. Story writes, Jackie loved the delicate lilies of the valley, which she had placed on her breakfast tray each morning because she liked waking up to their sweet scent. The garden seemed entirely innocuous until one afternoon, Jackie's assistant noticed some of the older Kennedy cousins rummaging through the plants. She, Kathy McKeon, also spotted the teens the following day, and upon further investigation realized exactly what the older children had uncovered. She ran over to find Jack Dempsey, the police chief who was now retired but often hanging out in the Secret Service trailer. She brought him over to take a look. Dempsey confirmed that the weeds in the garden were, in fact, marijuana. The two rushed to tell Jackie. Story writes that McKeon took a shortcut back to the house so she could let Jackie know as soon as possible. The book states, out of breath, she blurted out, Madame, we just found marijuana growing in the flower patch. Jackie stared at McKeon, stunned. Are you kidding me? She asked. Oh my God, this can't get out. How are we going to fix this? Dempsey allegedly enlisted the help of the Secret Service, who were assigned to Jackie to pull the plants from the garden that afternoon. McKeon claims she didn't tell any of the other Kennedy mothers. That's good. That would be just awful, right? Story writes that McKeon, who joined the family short after JFK's death, recounted evenings spent with Jackie in Hyannisport. It seemed that those early evening hours, when she would have been unwinding from the day with her husband, were the hardest for Jackie. She wanted to put off being alone, Story writes. The book recalls an oil painting done by Jackie for her first husband that showed Hyannisport Pier covered in fireworks. and signs celebrating JFK's presidential election win in 1960. It was, according to story, Jackie's favorite item in the house. When Jackie moved from the Hyannisport home to the one that she had built on Martha's Vineyard in 1979, she left that painting, along with everything else. She walked out of the house on Irving Avenue, and she didn't take a thing with her, story writes. Not even pot plants.
Well,
I wish there was like some, like if somebody had a story that they like, that she actually smoked.
well, there is gossip, rumors, articles written about JFK smoked
Smoking.
cannabis.
I could see him being yeah.
Because he had such bad back issues, like pain, like some nights,
Severe.
yeah, that it was heard or told or whatever that he used cannabis to help his pain.
Hey, that's great.
Yeah. So whether it's 100% accurate or true, it's just stuff I've seen. There's
Pretty
pictures
funny.
of him. There's pictures of him. It always looks like a cigar, but people say it was a joint the way it didn't because of how skinny it was.
Right.
You know, so
They just found cocaine in the White House.
cocaine. I want me some
Moving
of
on.
that cocaine. You never pay for drugs. Another line from Walk Hard.
Yes. My face hurts.
Oh, we need to smoke some more of that great
We
weed.
do.
So, Mrs. Weedman, that's the end of the show.
It is.
You got anything else to say besides you're in pain?
Well, everybody, put some sunblock on, would you? And I don't think this is the perfect strain for talking because like we were both really mellow tonight.
I like this strain.
It's really nice.
But I'm
But I don't feel sleepy.
In
I
the
feel
beginning,
mellow.
in the beginning, I was awake, but my body was like,
Slumpy.
yes, but I was wide awake. I was following articles. I'm able to read. but my body was
I feel like
I
yeah.
weigh 1,000 pounds.
It's pretty great.
Yeah,
But I don't think it's very conducive for
No,
having.
I will disagree with you on that. I
Yeah?
can smoke. I like this strain.
Whew.
I think
I'm gonna smoke some more.
I
of it.
need to find some seeds of this one too. So, JKush, well done again, my
Well done.
friend. Well done. I like this kind of strain. This is this 50-50, 60-40 stuff. You know, you get not for bedtime. I wouldn't want this for bed because my mind is up too much, but my body is filled. This is good, like couch watching a movie, so you can concentrate on the movie, but you feel nothing. You know, so well done and.
Very good.
Wear your sunblock, everybody.
Put on your sunblock, would you?
Looking at my beautiful wife over there going, oh my goodness.
Put on your sunblock.
Yeah, put your sunblock on. And we love you out there, everybody. Check out 8decades.com. Hit us up on our Insta. Say hello. We appreciate everybody talking with us, and we love you out there. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.